arrogance to assume that you doing three things is somehow going to beat somebody who's doing one. And I can promise you the competitor who is going to beat you is only doing that one thing. And you think a third of your time is going to beat theirs? No, it's not going to. I think it's arrogant. And so there's actually there's like an underpinning of ego underneath of this. And I say this as somebody who did this. So like when I had the launch business, I also had my 6 gyms. I also had a chiropractor agency and I also had a dental agency. And so I would introduce myself and like, oh, I own lots of companies. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions when you're an entrepreneur is not understanding the difference between being an owner and being the CEO. And so they might hear that you have a portfolio. They might hear that I have a portfolio and be like, okay, well, they have a portfolio, so I must model that. That guy's tall. I should play basketball. Doesn't work that way, right? So if I want to be rich, I should fly private. Doesn't work that way, right?
Mm.
It's conflating order. And so we must do these things in order to get the outcome. We have to concentrate on only one thing in order to get the outsized return. And that spreading of attention, especially when you're newer in the entrepreneurial career, it's like you already don't know so many things. How do you now want to have 3 sets of unknowns that you want to try and conquer at the same time? And the fallacy of thinking is that I'm going to try all of them and see which one works, but none of them will work because you're waiting to see which one will work. Because you can force, in my opinion, you can force one thing to work, provided like I'm gonna just assume basics like you're not selling $5 bills for $4. Like, like the normal economics of a business. Like if a real estate business exists, there are other people who are making money. There are hair salon businesses where people are making money. There are lawn mowing businesses where people are making money. You can make money in all of them. You just can't make money in all of them.
Yeah. At the same, and it's when you walked in today and you sat down on the chair. I said, like, "What's going on with you professionally?" I
Yeah.
remember what you said. You said more of the same and better, which clearly comes from your wisdom.
my infinite wisdom, right? Well, it's just from suffering, the the woes of this. Like the biggest entrepreneurial mistakes I've made in my career have all come from splitting my attention. Every one of them. Like every single one of them. Like I talked about how I had the e-commerce business that I bolted onto my licensing company. I should not have done that. As soon as I did that, my revenue started slowing down in its growth
Why did you?
because I was ADD. I was like, oh my, I don't want to leave money on the table. And I want to be so violent about this. You are always going to leave money on the table. That is the result of focus. But you're leaving a small amount of money on the table to pursue the much larger money that's on another table of just sticking with the thing that you're on right now. Because compounding, if I were to show a chart here, it's like if you're at year 3 of your thing and you want to think about moving to year 0 of a new thing, you have to compare. Maybe year 0 of a new thing grows faster, but it has to grow faster than year 3 to 4 of the thing that you're on right now. And I think people will compare year 0 to year 0, but not year 4 to year 0. And the thing is we have a linear life. And so it's an unfair but true comparison of the opportunity cost. And every exceptionally successful entrepreneur that I know has just stuck with one thing for such an inordinate amount of time. And I think there's a quote by, I want to say Shane Parrish, but he said, success is doing the obvious thing for an extraordinary period of time without believing that you're smarter than you are.
Yeah.
And it's just like we know what we need to do, and so we don't need to make our lives more complex. Complexity will come with scale, I promise. And so just simply trying to do more of what you're already doing well is already hard enough. Don't add anything else. And so like if you need to write some sort of commitment of like I'm just going to stick with this, then do that. But what happens is when we were talking about the levels earlier about like beating the bosses. So what happens is you know how to beat boss 1 through 3 of the game. And so then you just say, okay, well, I'm just going to start the game over and beat boss. I mean, this time it's going to be different. But then you just get to level 3 again, and then you're stuck again. And so people just keep getting up to level 3 and new endeavors over and over again because they never learned how to get past that boss. And so you just have to confront the uncertainty of knowing that you don't know how to do it, but that you will figure it out if you keep doing enough repetitions. And that's where you talk to as many people as you can. You see what they said, you consolidate it all, and you say, I think this is the highest likely path. It might not work. But I do believe fundamentally that if we cut people's hair well, and we do it for a long period of time, we will have a thriving business. And if we have a really good model from that thing, we might be able to open up another location. And if we keep our costs down, we might be able to have an actual model that we could either invest our own capital or bring somebody else and take it national. Or like all of these, like I have yet to find a business that can't get to $100 million a year, that has a permutation of it that exists. You're a dry cleaner, fine. Well, cool. We'll build the model, and either we're going to license the model, we can franchise the model out, we can get outside investors, we can scale it nationally, we can do it. But the crazy goals are only crazy because people have crazy timelines. They're actually very sane goals if you extend the timeline out. If you have a true 10-year goal or a true 20-year goal, almost anything's accomplishable. I mean, almost every multi-billion-dollar company is about, it's usually between like years 6 and 10 when companies get to kind of like those big numbers. And most people who are listening to this are 5 years into entrepreneurship, but you're 6 months into the thing that you've been working on right now. And you keep restarting the clock for getting to year 10 every time you start over. And I think that's the part that it took me a very long time to figure out. And I think it takes a lot of entrepreneurs. Like everyone messes around with a lot of stuff in the beginning because you just don't know what you're doing. And so in my experience, it takes about 5 years for most entrepreneurs that I know to just like find something that works. It takes about 5 years to figure out which way is north. Right?
Yeah.
And then it takes like another 5 years. And a lot of people, that's it. Like they restart, they go off, crash and burn. And it takes another 5 years to build something that can create generational wealth. So it's about a 10-year slug. And here's the really hard truth about it. If you have a job right now, for almost all of that 5 years, you quit your job because you don't want to work as hard as you are and you want to make more money. And as soon as you quit, you will realize that you are now going to work way harder than you were and you're going to make less money for an extended period of time. The one benefit is that you get to claim all responsibility for how little you make and how much you work because you're like, my boss is an idiot and it's me. But it's the truth. And I think that in some ways, having that optimistic ignorance is actually one of the really redeeming traits of entrepreneurs. And one of the really hard parts is that the biggest jump you have to make gets so immediately reinforced from the freedom you have from being able to, chart your own path. But that big success of quitting one thing and starting another, you need to immediately forget. And I think that fundamentally, that is why so many entrepreneurs keep doing it, is because the first time you do it, it's the biggest rush ever. You quit your job, you do the business, and you get some first traction. And that first dollar that you make when the new business is like the best dollar ever, right? But it's such a strong reinforcer that what does it reinforce? It reinforces stopping what you're doing and starting something else. And so I think one of the fundamental errors of entrepreneurship is that sometimes the jumping ship to start this thing is the lesson that you need to immediately unlearn, because after that, you have to just stick with it for a very long period of time.
There's also something in that entrepreneurs don't go into starting a company with the belief that their hypothesis is wrong. So in year 1 or 7 months in, when they realize that their initial hypothesis was wrong, they think that means abandon ship because my hypothesis was wrong. Whereas successful entrepreneurs that I've met, especially second-time founders, realize that their hypothesis is almost certainly wrong from the jump. And that the process of starting is to correct and to find a new hypothesis. I think about like Mark Zuckerberg in his room with like Face Swap or whatever it was, rating people's attractiveness. And now Meta is this like virtual reality AI company. But understanding that your hypothesis is wrong from the jump, and that, this is a process of finding a new hypothesis, I think will give you a little bit more patience as well through these cycles of the crisis of meaning and so on.
So 2 things. So one is I had this tweet that went like super viral, but it was like, first time founder, hey, I need you to sign an NDA before I tell you my business idea. I know you've gotten it. I know you have. Third time founder, here's everything I have. Here's all the documents. Here's all the projections. It's probably all wrong and this probably won't work. But I have a couple smart people and I think we'll be able to figure it out. It'll probably cost longer and take longer. It costs more and take longer than we think, but we think it's worth a shot. And that thing just went by. Because everyone who's been on both sides of that understand, like the entrepreneurs got it because they're like, oh my God, I was that guy. And all the investors get it because they're like, oh my God, I deal with this guy all the time. But actually what you just said with the many, many iterations that from your original idea until what actually happens is yet again one of those demonstrations of the difference between a beginner and expert. A beginner has binary thinking. So they think this worked or it didn't work. And if it didn't work, then I need a new idea. Rather than having the nuanced thinking of a master or an expert or advanced person who says, what about this, if I click into it, I break it into its component parts, what about this didn't work? Okay, it's not that meta ads don't work or advertising doesn't work. It's that we did